This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Live from Beach Time Out in the heart of Times Square. You're listening to Beach Talk Radio with Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good evening, everybody, and welcome to Beach Talk Radio for a Wednesday night. We are not live from Beach Time Out, although Governor Ron DeSantis was live from Beach Time Out and all of Times Square.
There was no way that I could go, but I can't believe you weren't able to.
Some days you have to get some work done. But we will have all the details on the governor's visit. We will have all the details on the town of Fort Myers meeting last night. It's been a very productive and positive day today and last night, the last 24 hours. Dan Allers will join us at about 6:35, and we have a special guest at 6:30 to make an announcement of what's going on tomorrow. But first, a friend to the show. We think he's a friend to the show. We hope he'll think he's a friend to the show. Matt Caldwell is with us. Matt, how are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Thank you. And as always, yes, a friend of the show. Love being on with you guys.
Matt Caldwell is the Lee County property appraiser. And there have been a lot of questions about property appraisals as of late. And we figured we'd bring Matt in to kind of straighten everybody out on the confusion. If there's one person that can do it, it's got the loveliest blinds in all of Southwest Florida.
Live from my dining room right here.
Right. Aren't we all? So Matt, why don't you just first to kind of explain your job to the folks out there so they understand exactly what you do?
Sure. I am your elected property appraiser. That means my primary responsibility is to come up with an assessed value for every real property parcel in the county. Every house, every office building, every lot has to have a value assigned to it. We have to do that every year as of January 1st. That is the value that then all of the taxing jurisdictions base their tax rates on. So I don't set taxes. I'm not the tax collector. That's a different job. My job is to, as we view it, look out for the best interest, be an advocate for the taxpayer. We don't work for the county or the cities. We are elected directly by the people to set those values. Now, because we are in the business of setting values, that's where we get brought into the process I think you want to talk about this evening, which is what to do next with these properties damaged by the hurricane.
Right. I think some of the confusion started with this map that Lee County had posted on their website that labeled each home a yellow or a red or an orange or green. What? You're coming through a little scratchy toward the end there. I don't know.
I'll get a little closer to it here.
Yeah. I think it's something with the microphone.
Yeah, it sounds like the microphone, but you're crystal clear. Yeah, we can hear you fine. So, tell us about the map and what function it serves, if any.
Well, that map is the county's first pass at trying to determine what was, demolished completely by the storm, what was seriously damaged by the storm, what has minor damage, and then what wasn't at all. And the purpose of that is really for them to get the big numbers to FEMA. They're negotiating with FEMA on the big disbursements of money. What is the kind of the top level view of the need? The expectation, I think, from everyone is that first pass isn't going to be the final number when it's all said and done. And ultimately, when it comes to your tax assessment, that's going to fall to our office. We're going to actually have to go property by property and make an official determination of each of those conditions, those states of condition, and then determine what impact that has on your value for the assessment and then the downstream taxes from that.
So what phase are we in right now in terms of this 50% thing? Do homeowners on Fort Myers Beach and everywhere, do they know the final number that this 50% is going to be based on?
So let me give you a little background, and that'll help, I think, your listeners. FEMA has a rule about properties that are at flood risk. I think we would all agree that the concept makes sense, right? Because as taxpayers, we all are on the hook to pay for flood losses. Older properties that were built before these flood regulations came into existence, we know eventually they're going to get flooded. We're going to have to, as taxpayers, because FEMA is taxpayer funded, pay out to cover those losses. And they have a rule that if you make a renovation, and that doesn't just apply to a post-storm event, but at any point, if you renovate the home and that substantial improvement, that's a very important phrase, substantial improvement, the value of that substantial improvement is greater than 50% of the market value of the home, then you have to bring the home up to modern flood zone code standards. That may, for some properties, mean you got to tear it down and start over. For other properties, it might mean, lift it up in the air on pilings. Totally depends on the property and what's realistic. But the two components are what you really need to pay attention to. One, is the renovation defined as a substantial improvement? People can go to FEMA's website, see what the four corners of that are. A lot of the properties that we're going to be talking about tonight are dealing with substantial improvement. But make sure you get that and you get comfortable with what that means. From my side, you got market value is what FEMA refers to. There's a lot of definitions of market value. The important thing, I think, for us in Lee County, each of the cities and the county separately have a responsibility to enforce this at the local level. So they have to make their mind up about how they're going to proceed in determining what is market value and then applying that to their permit process. Now, for Lee County, they already have on the books that there are 3 ways that they will accept market value. The first is a private appraisal. And that is always going to be your strongest and best bet. There's no way around that. That is an appraisal that's done based on the pre-storm conditions. So the day before the storm, what was the value of the property? That's up to date. It's highly accurate. It's highly focused on your individual property. That's going to be different in many aspects from what we do. There's 2 big reasons. One, our value date for the tax roll is January 1st. So that was 10 months ago. Now, it's not going to mean that those numbers are going to change radically, but we all know the market moves, and it's going to maybe be different. So on just that one question alone, if your value is close to that 50% and you feel like you may be better off with a private appraisal, that may be one of the reasons why, because you got 10 months of difference in the value date. And the other thing is that market value, as developed through a private fee appraisal, is different than the just value that we determine for your tax basis. And in most scenarios, you can use it as pretty much a rule of thumb. Our just value is going to be lower than a private market value. Part of that is, we as an office don't want to litigate all of our 550,000 parcels every year. So we don't overshoot the mark. We undershoot the mark. We're taxpayer friendly, and we're trying to get it done efficiently and effectively. Our big concern is making sure that everybody has the right relationship to each other, right? $1 million properties are $1 million properties, and $100,000 properties are $100,000 properties, and they have the right relationship in our tax roll so that they're getting taxed equitably. We're not really focused on whether you should be 100,000 or 101,000. That doesn't matter to the end result of what the tax bill is going to be. But what that means is if you then try to use our numbers, you may be lower than what you possibly could get with a private appraisal. Now, having said all that, the Lee County definition gives you 2 other options. You can use our cost approach, depreciated cost approach, or you can use a market value as derived as a factor of our assessed value. And that is what you will find if you go on our website, leepa.org. You pull up your property record. You'll see highlighted in yellow the tax letter. You click on that. It's going to populate for you exactly that number. It's going to break out for you the building value, which is our allocation of your total value. Because remember, it's you got to take the land out. Yep, you got to take the land out. You got to take the non-main building things out. And you're just looking at that allocated value. And in fact, we've updated that letter even a little bit since this version that you see, since Lee County has indicated that is exactly what they're going to accept, is that line that you have highlighted. So we've trimmed this down and hopefully made it even easier for everybody to understand. But that's the number Lee County says they're going to take, and I would certainly, to the extent I can, encourage the cities to follow suit, because I think that makes a lot of sense. There's some other issues that come along with that. How many years do you look at, the permit value for the last 5 years? Some jurisdictions do that. I think most that still have that are going to look to move to a single event calculation, so that the fact that you replaced your roof 2 years ago doesn't count against you in that 50%. But those are decisions the city councils and the county commission have to make. From our role, we've got the tax roll, and we've developed a building value that you can use in this process. And if you're not close, it's going to save you money. You don't have to spend $300 or $400 for a private appraisal. You're well under the 50%. Take this letter, get your permit, and get it done ASAP.
You have a question? Okay. So Matt, you mentioned that you mentioned $300 or $400 because there's a lot of gouging going on. There's a lot of scamming going on. Do you think a private appraisal should run about $300 or $400 no matter what size the house is?
Well, it depends on how it's the complexity. It's not a size question, right?
Okay.
If you live in a neighborhood with all the houses, 200 houses in the neighborhood, and they're all 3,000 square feet, well, that's not really a tough appraisal if you got a bunch of sales down the street. It's really the question of the complexity. So your properties on the beach, those are more complex. They are more challenging. They already were before the storm, much less after the storm. When you're talking about any island property, most of the time the land is a bigger component than the house itself. If you go to look at a house in Lehigh, the lot's worth 15 grand. Well, that's a really small percentage of the overall value. We all know that's not the case on the beach because they're not making any more beach, and the land is worth a lot more than it is up on the mainland. So it's just a complexity question. But your standard typical, appraisal for your typical single family house in Lee County is going to run you $300 or $400.
So Matt, what is the timeline for a process of something like this, and who's in charge of it? There are some people on the beach that are ready to either go or not go. They need somebody to tell them whether they should, tear their house down, or am I okay? Are these estimates okay? What is the process, and why do people have to wait at this point? Who's in charge of all that? How do we move it along?
Well, and the other thing is there someone that can, if someone has questions like I don't, that's not our situation, but I think I would be overwhelmed with all that information. Is there a professional that can help them kind of go through all that information and make a decision about whether they should go forward, or would that be a lawyer? Would it be an appraiser? Any ideas on that?
Sure. So to that last question, your private appraisers, the experienced ones, the reputable ones, they have dealt with this. They were dealing with it before the storm for renovation projects. People buy an old house on the water and they got to figure out whether they got to tear it down or can they do a reno project. So those appraisers, private appraisers, were already dealing with properties on Sanibel, in the South Cape, in South Fort Myers on the river. They're familiar with this process, and they will help you navigate it and figure out what's best for you. And particularly the reputable ones are gonna talk you through the process and have a good idea whether or not they can help you straight off the bat, and not look to just charge you a fee just to get some money. They're gonna work to help solve your problem as their client. Now, as a taxpayer, you can always call our office to the extent we are able to help. We're not the permitting agency, so we're not responsible for ultimately issuing that permit, but the permit agencies are relying on us a lot for the number that determines what happens here. So we are involved in that. That's why we developed this letter. It's why we worked with Lee County and are really happy that they've agreed with us and are going to move forward with that allocation that we developed on the building value. And we'll try to help answer the questions the best we can. To Ed's question, it's up to whoever is in charge of your building permits. They are the ones ultimately that are going to have to issue that building permit. The buck stops with them in terms of whether you go or no go on that renovation project. And it just depends on where you live, whether you're dealing with the county or the cities. One thing, though, that I have encouraged people to think about, and this is a really tough decision, like you you were saying, it's a overwhelming situation. But you do really want to think about if you have a house that was completely flooded under, and you're dealing with a 50% rule, and you're really pushing up against that limit, and you're trying to decide what to do. I really think you should take some time and contemplate. Do you really want? I mean, even if you can get it to fit right in at 49%, do you want to renovate that house, or should you really think about building new, something that's going to be above the floodplain, is going to be hardened, and is less likely to get that kind of damage next time this happens? Because it will happen again. It will. I don't know when it will. For a lot of us that lived there our whole lives, we've never seen it. I've been here 41 years and never had anything like this. But I suspect that even though almost nobody lived down in the damaged areas back in Hurricane Donna, it probably was a lot like that based on the water, how deep the water was up in downtown Fort Myers back then. So I suspect that you're looking at a 70-year, that's a 70-year difference. And you go build a house right now, and it's still going to be around 70 years from now. It might happen again.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes down to what people can afford. I mean,
Absolutely.
most people would prefer to probably build up or build stronger if they had all that money. And then you can see the people that are pushing up against that limit might not be able to afford that. They still have to pay an old mortgage of a house that no longer exists. And now they're trying to meet these new regulations. What is going on? Yeah.
Because this comes up a lot. So Cindy asked, can we still add, and we've heard this before, the 20% to the building value as stated on the county's website?
So that is an option, and it's not just 20%. The FEMA talks about using a factor to apply to the number. I think the county's position, and I think this is a very defensible position, is the way that we have now. So used to, if you go back to that letter real quick, used to people would go to our cost approach, the cost value there. You can see there's a huge difference in that building value between the cost and what we've presented the market value. Essentially, for older properties, the cost approach is not a reliable approach. It's very subjective based on depreciation. In appraisal world, you really only rely on the cost approach if you've got a brand new building or a fairly new building. Sometimes we use it when you got a really complicated project that you just have no sales comparisons for. But for particularly all the properties that are going to be in this situation, you didn't ever want the cost approach. So essentially what we've done by changing the paradigm, by moving to an allocation of the just value, is we've done that factor. You can see we're almost 3 times as much in this one letter between the cost value and the market value breakout.
So you're saying that in this, what we're looking at here, that cost value at 258 versus the market value, that's where you're saying it's clearly more than 20%. And so that's already been figured in. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, I want to tell everybody, stick with me on this question, and don't worry about what else you hear. Cause I think what we've done with breaking out the just value is the best position we can put the taxpayers in for what they got to decide to do.
So Matt, but it looks like the person that sent us this in has added the 20% onto that number, but you're saying that that's a no-go.
Well, that's not up to us at the end of the day. That is up to the building department and the jurisdiction. But I want to make sure people understand, in the past, people have talked about using that percentage increase to tack it onto the cost approach. We've never done this allocation. So what's in this letter, that market value column, or really just value, the newest version, it correctly assigns it as just value. That we've never broken it out for people like that before. And I think this is obviously a much better, much more taxpayer friendly position for how this breaks out. And I personally wouldn't worry about the what percentage, because then you're just going to end up arguing about what percentage you should multiply it by. And that really was about recognizing the cost approach is really inefficient and not accurate for older properties.
So in that case, Fort Myers Beach will decide, that municipality will decide whether or not to add that 20% onto that number.
Yes, it's totally up to them. It's up to the permitting department and ultimately then the council, because the council is the policy maker. What they're going to do, how they're going to take the options FEMA gives them. Because again, FEMA gives them a really wide latitude to say what market value is. And the other thing to keep in mind is you always have that first option. So you won't have any kind of percentage addition if you go get a private appraisal.
Right.
The percentage additions are only about trying to guesstimate how to bring up the tax assessed conclusions closer to a private market value conclusion. But if you just go get the appraisal, you eliminate all of that conversation. You're going with the number in the appraisal.
Right. And so what if you add the 20, let's say Fort Myers Beach decides to add the 20 onto that number that we showed you, does that negatively impact how FEMA looks at them in terms of getting them the insurance that they would need next time around?
Well, that's a great question. That's one that I don't have any expertise with. I will tell you, I've heard that part of this process is getting FEMA to agree that the jurisdiction's conclusion of how to process this directly impacts how they get risk rated. So I suspect as the council is presented with these options, that will certainly be part of the conversation. It needs to be one way or the other. We need the taxpayers need an answer, because it doesn't really do us any good to push these numbers up higher, and then we lose the ability to get the flood insurance anyway.
Right. So what is going on with Cape Coral? There was some reporting that Cape Coral is trying to ease up on some of the regulations. Have you been paying attention to what they're trying to do, and can you explain how they could do that?
Yeah, so the same issue as the county, I think, is looking at. Historically, their current code says that they look at the 5-year cumulative. So if you came in and got a roof permit 2 years ago, and you got a kitchen permit yet last year, they would add all that up and hold that against your 50%. And they're talking about both Lee County and Cape Coral are talking about moving to just a single event consideration. So you just this one permit value versus your 50% cap.
Okay. It sounds like everybody's trying to lean toward that anyway to help the homeowner. I thought it was something a little more different. I thought it was something different than that, but that makes sense.
Listen, well, there's again, because it's up to them, they've got a lot. They've got the FEMA again gives them wide latitude. I mean, I think in as much as we go back to the last comment, how do you get risk rated and whether you get approved? It's really about making the case as the local jurisdiction that you're being serious in how you develop your policy and meet their expectations to underwrite the program.
Well, and I'm guessing FEMA wants everybody, if they can, to build up on the beach, because that's going to be the best thing for the taxpayer who's footing the bill for the flood insurance. And it's going to keep people the safest from something like this again.
Absolutely the case. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the thing to remember. The FEMA flood program is a public taxpayer funded and subsidized program. So every loss, whether it's here or in a farm country in the Midwest, we all pay for that. And so the 50% rule is about trying to, over time, shrink that risk pool down and get people out of the floodplain and get them into safer structures, as you point out.
And I just wanted to ask, when you're talking about the 50% and the replacement costs, what's not included in that figure?
In replacement cost? So replacement cost, honestly, is not our main focus for old properties. I mean, we've got a 500,000 properties more to put a new number on every year, and in the single family set in particular, we've got great sales data. We've got thousands and thousands of houses that sell here every year. So if you really get down into the guts of our property record card, you'll see the sales comparison process is what we put all of our weight on, because that's the most accurate. That's what happened this year. You really can't argue with it. It's based on your similar properties that have sold just around you. The cost approach is very abstract. It is a best estimate about what it would cost to build your house new, but then an estimate of depreciation. And that depreciation gets very, very difficult to nail down the older your house gets. And particularly in a market like ours, where you and I would look at it and say, well, that house is 50 years old. I mean, it's got to have 50% depreciation. But because demand has skyrocketed the last 2 years, the market value turns around and says, no, it's only, it might have depreciated 50% 10 years ago, and it's now appreciated. And we saw that happening in large part the last 2 years because just think about it. Every time that you couldn't buy a window at Home Depot, you couldn't buy a door at Home Depot, you couldn't get any tile at Home Depot because of supply constraints. Well, that meant that every one of our windows and doors and tile sitting in our houses was going up in value, right? And so that's why the cost approach gets really, really difficult and inaccurate when you have a very old improvement, because you're really just guessing, honestly. And when you have a market like what we had the last 2 to 3 years that was going up so incredibly strongly.
And I guess I was alluding to things like that when people are figuring out how much, like if it's a $300,000 home and you're at 50%, so you got 150 to work with, 150,000 to work with. That doesn't include things like surveys, permits, driveways, the pool structures. That stuff is all not calculated in there, correct?
Correct. So, Ed, if you want to put back up that chart real quick, the letter.
Yep.
So the things you just mentioned are in those other lines. So building extra features value, that's probably that we're talking driveways, we're talking sheds, we're talking everything that's an appurtenance to the house, but not a piece of the house directly. Pools get put in. I think pools get put in the building extra value. The land extra features, that's where you're going to see your docks, your lifts, things that, if the house burned, basically things if the house burned down would still be part of the land. Seawalls get put in land extra feature value. That's those other two lines there.
And someone was talking about, well, if they did the work themselves, like the fair market value of the work of the labor, that's where there's some, you can make some
minimum wage
wiggle room in there. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately the permit value, that's the other part of this equation, right? As you point out, say the building's worth 300,000, so you got 150 to play with. Well, that totally depends on what you bring into the permit office as what this is going to cost. And so, yeah, if you can save some money as being a homeowner permit, that's another way potentially you can get in under that level.
So, Matt, last question, and we'll let you go. Is the letters or the information seems to have changed a few times on the Lee County website? Is this it? Is the final, and people can rely on this as the last data to go with?
Well, so the numbers in that column have been the same the whole time. What has changed is how we've presented it. We're trying to answer the common questions we're getting because people are a little confused, and trying to answer the questions we're getting from the jurisdictions. Because again, historically, they've usually just gone to our cost approach value, and they knew where to find that. That was on the property record card. They were used to doing it that way. And the property appraiser's office, confused the building permit officials a little bit because we did something new. We thought it was more correct, and ultimately Lee County has agreed with us that what we have done here is more correct and what they're going to rely on. So if you go and generate that letter on our website, it's going to look a little different than the version you've shown us here tonight, but it's going to be really to the point about here's the number you can use in your 50% rule process per Lee County. And my expectation is hopefully then the cities follow suit and embrace that exact same process.
I know I said it was the last question, but somebody did pop one up there. How do mobile home parks fit into all this?
And manufactured homes, yeah.
Well, it depends on whether you were mobile home and manufactured home are two different things. Depends on whether you were real property, so you paid taxes through the tax collector through our process, or you went and got a registration like a vehicle. Those are two different products. And if you registered like a vehicle, you're exempt from the building code. That's a different thing. Manufactured homes, we're getting a little bit more. Now we got to figure out, are you in a rental community or do you own your lot? If you own your lot, my understanding is you follow most of what we've talked about tonight. I mean, at that point, you're just a different construction process. Everything else is the same. You own the lot, you own the building. You've got to meet the building codes, and those manufactured houses that fit in that paradigm have building code processes already approved by the state of Florida to meet wind standards and flood standards. If you're in a rental park, that's going to be a little different. And the same, so mobile home parks that are rental parks as well as condos are going to be a little different. So if you go to try to pull this letter on your condo unit, you're going to see that we won't generate it for you, because you're going to need to have a discussion with your association. Remember that as a condo owner, you only own the inside of your unit. The association owns the outside of the building. And for the FEMA rule, they've got to put both of those together before they decide what they're going to do on the 50%. So it's a little more complicated for the condo folks, and they're going to have to work through it with their association.
Nothing has been easy for the last 2 years. Nothing.
Station without it being too complicated, and yes, steer right back. One quick one. When you say someone was asking about just value, just value is the same or different than that market value that you put up there?
So we that's one of the changes in the letter. We wanted to make sure that we were more clear, and so that column you'll see in the new letter is titled just value, because that is what we developed in your tax roll. But the paragraph, we've edited the paragraph to explain how Lee County is going to accept that as market value for the FEMA process.
Okay.
But they are different. They're different definitions. The biggest difference is if you go get an appraisal, they don't deduct the cost of sale, the commission you pay the realtor or your closing cost. Just value, when we develop that tax roll, we have to be pure cash. So when we do all of our research and all of our analysis every year, we have to take out all of the commissions and all of the closing costs. So they're very similar, but they are different at a fundamental level. And we want to make sure we don't, it may be more confusing at the end of the day, but we want to make sure we're right. And everybody's going to learn. Everybody's going to be an expert on the tax roll and FEMA by the end of this process.
Yep.
All right, Matt. Thanks so much for coming on. We always appreciate you coming in, and you're always accommodating whenever we ask. So thank you very much.
Feeling
Absolutely,
this won't be the last time either, but thank you
Thanks,
very
Matt.
much.
Have a
Anytime
great
you want.
night. Appreciate your time. Matt Caldwell, everybody. He's a great guy, and he always comes on whenever we ask him. You're going to need your cans for this, dear. Put your cans on. Joining us now is Kendall Martinez. Kendall, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Good. You are live on the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. That's what my wife likes to say about our dinky little podcast. But Kendall is with Rapid Response, and Rapid Response has a big announcement to make for something that's going on tomorrow. First off, before we spill the beans, Kendall, what is Rapid Response?
Well, thanks for this opportunity. Rapid Response Team, first and foremost, is a group of men and women dedicated to restoring Florida after Hurricane Ian. Listen, we're homeowners, we're brothers, sisters, fathers. We live in this community, work in this community, and we understand what everybody is going through. A lot of our team members have suffered losses for their homes, their dwellings, personal belongings. So we understand this firsthand. Rapid Response is dedicated to the people of Florida. We're here to help. We're here to provide support with hardworking men, women, and a group of restoration specialists who are all about that. So,
exactly what do you do?
Well, my job in the company is to lead the restoration team. So I provide restoration services, which would include making structures clean, safe, and dry in the most basic form. Following me is our construction division, and those great folks put everything back together.
So do you work with insurance companies? I'm confused.
Sure, we work with insurance companies, homeowners, and anybody that needs help. We have specialized folks on the team who do in fact speak the same language as the insurance companies and provide that necessary support and go between the insured and the insurance companies.
Thank you, Gary, for saying that. So, Kendall, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, you and your team are going to be hosting something at the Fort Myers Beach Library on Estero Boulevard, where you'll be serving 500 meals to first responders and residents and anyone else that wants to show up, which is kind of cool. What is on the menu for tomorrow?
a lot of good food. I don't want to let it out. I'd like everybody to come down and enjoy it. And please, again, thank you to those first responders without whom none of this is possible. Those fine folks really do an amazing job of keeping us all of us safe and healthy, and our hearts and hats are off to them.
So what you're saying is you have no idea what's on the menu, right?
They don't tell me much.
They didn't fill you in there. So we're not really calling you to talk about the menu. Tell us what else you're doing.
Well, right now, our focus is on the Fort Myers Beach area and other impacted areas. We're at the library providing some real necessary services to that structure. It's a beautiful, beautiful community structure that clearly a lot of people hold dear to their hearts, and we're going to make that right again.
Okay, but what's the giveaway? It's time to let the cat out of the bag. What's the giveaway?
You know what? I'm going to leave that to the professionals. Please, sir, it's all about you.
Okay. All right. So what Rapid Restoration is doing tomorrow is their CEO, Steve Berman, will be there, and he's going to be giving
Rapid response.
Did I say it wrong?
You said restoration.
Oh, sorry. Rapid response. Will be giving 2 residents whose houses have been severely damaged a free restoration to their homes so that the rebuilding can occur. So show up for the free lunch, and I guess they're going to do like the name in the hat kind of thing. And Kendall is going to pull the name out of the hat after he has a meal that he has no idea what he's going to be eating, and then he's going to give away. Do you know how you're going to be doing it?
I just want to ask. No,
go ahead. Don't ask him anything he doesn't know.
He will know this. So when you say, or when Ed says, you're giving 2 people a restoration, what does that include? Is that like your house has been demolished, we're going to rebuild it from the ground up, or is that? Well, what does that entail?
We are going to provide the necessary restorative services that get it clean, safe, and dry and ready to rebuild. So our job is to go in and make sure it's clean, all the debris is removed, and that it's ready for someone to do the actual rebuild. But we're going to handle just the dirty part of it.
Yeah, you're going to
Yes, ma'am. If there's mold, we'll take care of that as well, of course.
All right, Kendall. Well, that's an awfully damn nice thing that you're doing for the people on Fort Myers Beach. So tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the Fort Myers Beach Library, right on Estero Boulevard. It's that big castle building that everybody loves, right on the edge of the sidewalk there. And it's in fairly good shape other than the ground floor. And they're also talking about the town hall being temporary house there. So, Kendall, thanks so much for the last minute jump on our show here. And we appreciate your time and what you're doing tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, guys, take care, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And that, again, is Kendall.
From Rapid Response.
Kendall Martinez. I know. You know, didn't they give away those water bottles when we went to the Chamber of Commerce thing in Sanibel? Those cool looking water bottles. I think we've got a couple of them here. They're not water bottles. They're like cooler bottles. They keep the water cool, like cool bottles. So in addition to town hall being considered for the library tomorrow, there was a bunch of stuff that was really cool last night that took place at the town council meeting. And that includes the food truck approval. The town approved the food truck situation. So, you know, you got to go and get a food truck if you're going to do it. You have to be a restaurant on Fort Myers Beach. Although I was talking to Reed Freeman today from the SOB, and he said the governor approved some kind of rule or law, the legislature did, that said you can go anywhere in Florida with the food truck. But what Fort Myers Beach, the town council is trying to do is, you know, keep the money in the house, keep the money that the Fort Myers Beach businesses and restaurants, you know, the ones that were operating there, they get the food truck. And I know Reed's on his way to getting one. And
he's probably going to serve that chili.
Yeah, the cheater chili that he serves every year. And also if you owned a business there while you're trying to rebuild or consider rebuilding, you can put a kiosk out. Like, you know, if you had a store maybe in Times Square or in Santini Plaza and you're rebuilding, you can put a kiosk in the parking lot. They're working that out. If you get an RV, and I'm going to ask Dan about this when he comes on in 1 minute. If you get an RV or a fifth wheel and you park it in your driveway or in your grass, because you're allowed to do that now, they approved that. the town is going to help you get water and
good.
the poop disposal and whatever else you need for those thingamajigs.
About the FEMA housing stuff. If they get FEMA trailers down there on their property, they'll probably help them with that too then.
That's the way it sounded last
Okay.
night, that if they're going to, allow them to get the trailers on their I think Rexanne pushed for that. She wanted to make sure that people get water and sewer and whatever you need to hook up, I guess, right? Is that what you call it? You call it to hook up?
Yeah.
So those things were approved. And what else was approved last night? The pods. If you need a pod, storage pod on your property, you're allowed to do that as well. So a lot of good stuff happened at the town council meeting last night. The one thing that the residents are still concerned about is the permitting process. It seems to be going a little bit slower than people would like it to. But other than that, it was pretty positive. And there is Dan the man. He's got his glasses on today. He's also got himself muted. So he'll need to unmute himself. What? He doesn't usually wear glasses on our show. Dan, how are you?
Well, I have to wear glasses because evidently I can't read my own writing.
I don't get it. What do you mean? What happened?
Well, just taking a bunch of notes, over the last couple of days.
I
And
see.
my chicken scratch, I can't quite read it.
Gotcha.
Well, you've been a little busy.
Yeah. So, Dan, one of the things we were talking about real quick.
Wait a minute. Where are you tonight?
I'm in the jungle.
Yeah, no kidding. Looks
There's
like he's over at the
like a-
man cave somewhere, somebody's man cave. So fill us in on if you put a trailer or an RV on your lot, what is the town going to do for water, sewer, and all that stuff? I know that you guys approved that, but how are you going to make that happen?
Well, I don't know that there's necessarily an exact plan of how that's going to happen yet, but there was a consensus to supply water, electric, and sewer, or allow it at least, on the properties for 18 months, and then review it after that.
Got it. And the same thing goes
because you can have a much smaller panel, obviously, to run a motorhome than you can to run your house.
So the town's going to try and help make that happen for people that need to do that, which was a lot of good stuff happened last night. A lot of positive approvals from the council, including the food trucks thing. Food truck also. Can you kind of explain how that's going to happen? Like, is there going to be, all right, if I have a food truck because I had a business on Fort Myers Beach, I got to go to town hall. I got to get a permit. I got to make sure, that I was operating a restaurant, just because I know you guys want to keep it within the family there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very important for if you had a business on the island, whether it was a merchant or if you were a restaurant bar owner, that you get first right of refusal to be able to have your a food truck or a trailer or something, a kiosk, whatever it is, on the property. Again, that was just something we discussed last night. The actual layout of how that's going to work, and I think Roger actually said it last night that if someone that isn't supposed to be there is there, we'll know about it very quickly.
Yeah.
Will they, I'm sorry, I might have missed this. Will they need to get a permit for those, or does it fall under the previous permit, I guess, they had for operating their business in the past?
Well, I think it would. My hope is that it would fall under the what they had in the past, as long as they were,
Okay.
As long as they were before Ian. It would be my vote to make sure that they can get out there. And the permitting's been a big issue, and I don't know that we necessarily touched on it last night enough. We haven't decided if we're going to suspend fees. I think that needs to be something that's very front and center on our next town meeting. There's still a lot of confusion, obviously, over the electric and paying fees and not supposed to pay fees, and the understanding was that you're not being charged fees until the end, until the council could have a decision on it. We haven't made that decision, so I'm going to do what I can to make sure that that's one of the most important things we talk about at our next meeting.
Right. So, what if there's a restaurant that doesn't want to spend, food trucks aren't cheap, that doesn't want to spend money on a food truck? Would they be allowed to do like a barbecue on the sidewalk or something like that? Or maybe just put wheels on a board and make it look like a food truck right out in front of their business?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, a hot dog cart or something.
Yeah, something like that,
That's
man.
where I was going.
It'd probably make Bruiser pretty happy in a hot dog cart, or, you know. But I don't know those exact details yet. My
Yeah.
hope is that it's we're a little lenient on some things until we can work that out. It's to spend a lot of time to work on that specific detail. I think the most important detail is that if you had a business on the island, that you have a place that you can, assuming if you didn't own the island, you didn't own the spot that you had your business on, that the landowner will let you do it. But I certainly hope any landowner out there that's listening will let the people that were there paying their rent and were there for a long time, we'll let them back to be able to do their business. I mean, it's only good for the community. It's only good for the workers, the people that are down here helping rebuild. I think it could be a good shot of adrenaline for the community to be able to get some hot food.
Yeah.
Someone's asking, can they serve alcohol? And I don't know if you can answer that or not.
Well,
I mean,
that's, I had that on my notes last night, but I had pages and pages of notes, and as we kind of jumped around and did things, that it was not one of the clarifications that I was able to ask, but I certainly hope so. I mean, if that's something that they, if they had a liquor license and they can serve it, and it's, again, if it were up to me and I have a vote, I would think, however you operated your business, I think you should be able to operate that business.
Well, Dana loves alcohol, so she'll clearly be listening to our Friday night show. She just types that in there like out of the blue. Okay, Dana, thank you for sharing that.
see it.
Before we get to the governor's visit, which was awesome today, let's talk about the water. Christy came up and gave everybody an update last night. It's probably even a little better today that they've been up and down. I think she said 62 side streets, and 51.2% of the side streets are now capable of getting water. Does that sound accurate? And really, why don't you break that down and tell us what it really means?
Yeah, so that's the same notes that I have. As you said, the 62 streets and 51%. So what they're doing is they're going up and down the island, turning on the water mains, or this, for the side streets. And if it holds, that's great. Then that street has power or water available to be able to send to the homes. Now, that doesn't mean that your home is ready to receive the water, obviously. Some homes were damaged more than others. She did mention that she had the authority to turn on the water to the house. If the house leaks, then you shut it back off. So that was an encouraging, positive thing. I think that she has the leeway to be able to try to fix some things that are minor. If it's a ball valve or something like that, they can fix quickly. But I also thought it was important, and I mentioned it in the meeting last night, that we need to start listing what streets have damage that can't be turned on right away, because we're getting a lot of questions about, well, why does my neighbor's street have it but I don't? If you're going north to south, north south to north, why does their street have it, mine don't? Well, chances are that it was damaged. So, for the sake of efficiency, you find a street that has a little damage, you know what that damage is, you move on to the next one to try to cover as many streets as you can to get as much water to people as fast as we can. I think that's a good plan. I think it's a good way to do it. And then you go back the next day, as she said, or the day after, to try to get a crew on there to fix the stuff to be able to get water back to the street that was damaged.
What about turning on so is the town letting people know, hey, the water's going to be coming on, so they can either be there or have someone be there in case there's a problem in their house, and then.
Yeah, they have to be there. They won't do it without them there.
Yeah, they said they will reach out to let you know that you have power, or I keep saying power, you have water to your home. And as Christy said last night, they can try to turn the water on, open the meter, and if obviously there's a leak, you shut the meter back off. So they're working very hard to just make sure that whatever streets can receive water are getting the water.
Gotcha. So, any other water questions, dear? I know some people are saying that has been turned on.
Water in it, and they weren't home. That's why I was asking, and somebody else was. So, they should be getting notified that the water's coming on.
That's what the plan is, anyway, right, Dan?
I didn't hear what you said. Sorry, Ed.
Yeah.
They should be getting notified that the water is coming on.
Yeah, I think that they've been really good about getting out what streets have water. I haven't looked today to see if there's a list of streets that don't have water that they checked today. I just haven't gotten that far yet, but they're updating the website.
Gotcha.
They're updating people, every day as to when they can get the water. They've been doing a really, really, in my opinion, very, very, very good job.
Yeah.
You see them out there every day with the T handles, opening valves, shutting valves, moving debris if they have to move debris to get to these water valves. So they're going above and beyond, in my opinion.
T-handle deer is something that you
You
use
know
to
what
open
it
the
is.
water valve.
You don't know what it
wondering.
is.
So
Please.
let's talk about the debris, Dan. 318 cubic yards. That's kind of like a square yard there, a cubic yard.
It's
Is
a
what
cube, it's
is
not
what
a
they
square.
said they removed from Fort Myers Beach so far, with 60 cubic yards, 60,000,
was gonna
not
say, what are
318.
you
I
talking
forgot
about?
to say K. 60,000 just from Estero Boulevard, and that's a lot. That's a lot, and there's still a lot more to go. And so the question I had for you was, it appears from what the guy at Crowder Gulf said was that Monday and Tuesday have been extremely helpful, and that 20% less would be taken off the island if Monday and Tuesday were open to residents. The residents are a little pissed about the curfew. So where are you on that? And, do you think the hours are okay? And so kind of fill us in on the curfew.
Well, I think everybody knows that the Monday and Tuesday are there to try to remove as much debris as possible. And as you said, 20% more, as Reed from Crowder Gulf said last night, it's a 20% increase, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're talking cubic yards, that's a significant amount. And if they're averaging 25,000 cubic yards a day, you can do the math. They had the meeting today with the county commission that talked about how much debris, and they were saying in Lee County it's 9 to 10 million cubic yards. Of that 9 to 10 million, 2.5 million cubic yards are estimated on Fort Myers Beach alone. So if you back into the math at 25,000 cubic yards a day, you kind of get an idea how long it's going to take. And I know, Ed, that's math is not your strong suit, but it's a long time. But that's a massive amount. And just to put it in perspective, unincorporated Lee County alone has 3.5 million in debris removal that needs to happen. We are second at 2.5 million, and of that, about 300,000 cubic yards, 300,000 of 2.5 million have been collected as of today.
That's nutty.
Crazy.
So you can see there's a long way to go. I think it's needed. As much as people don't agree with it, the island is closed. It has to happen. Unfortunately, it has to happen to be able to try to meet the deadline to be reimbursed. A town with a $20 million budget, they're right around there. It doesn't. You exceed that very, very quickly when it comes to debris removal.
Yeah. Candy David, if that is her real name, asks if it's feasible to remove debris at night. And I know the Crowder Gulf guys mentioned that it's not really something, and you brought this up before in a previous show. It's just too dangerous. The debris makes it dangerous, and pulling out wires by accident and not really being able to monitor what they put in the trucks. All those things combined, they are doing some work with sand at night. They are moving sand around, which there's still sand everywhere so many weeks later. So that is the answer, unless you know something I don't know, Dan, or I missed something.
No, that's pretty much what they said. It's all about safety. At night when those claws go down and they're grabbing things, you've seen the piles. They're 10, 20 feet high sometimes.
Yeah.
What's in that pile? Is it a car? Is it a fire hydrant? Who knows what it could be down there? So when you're trying to claw that stuff at night, as you said, they're working on the sand at night. It's my understanding that they're going to be working on the removal of the debris from the dump sites coming very soon at night. So the semis going off at night to be able to allow to bring more product in to be processed at Lovers Key and at Bay Oaks. That should be hopefully starting, my understanding, soon at night. So things that can be done at night are being done at night, but you have to be safe. I mean, you don't want to put one truck right now is very important, in my opinion, to be able to keep it on the road. And if there's something to happen to someone or a monitor that's there, as I told you before, every single truck has a monitor on it to make sure that what's going in is being recorded. It's the right product so that it gets reimbursed from FEMA.
Yeah.
So we keep getting this question and they're going back and forth. Is the curfew 5 or 7 p.m.?
It's 9 to 5.
Okay.
9 to 5. Monday and Tuesday, you can't go on at all. Wednesday through Saturday through Sunday, it's 9 to 5. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was about specifics about the debris. The folks can speed along the process if they take their washer and dryer out of the debris, or if they take their green grass out of the debris, because that just delays the process, because the monitor has to watch what the debris guy is putting in the truck, because if they put the wrong stuff in the truck, they don't get reimbursed by FEMA. So it's important that the debris is like the construction and demolition debris is really what they're picking up with those giant trucks. They're going to come back for the washer and dryer. So I'm guessing if you can put the washer and dryers together with your neighbors, like they did on that one street all the way that San Carlos, those condos on the right-hand side, they had all the green trash and bags, and they had everybody's washer and dryer right on the sidewalk, right before the green bags. So they're onto the FEMA plan right there. So and you, every time you can, just push it out to the sidewalk, not in the right of way, but push it out as close as you can. And the more often that you can, the more of your stuff they're going to take. Right, Dan?
Yeah, the more debris you can get to the right of way, the faster it'll get picked up. Is kind of the understanding. As the governor said today, they're working on taking the private property debris removal and the commercial property removal. But if you can get it to the roadway, if you can get it to the right of way, it'll get picked up that much faster. But the more you can segregate it, the easier it is for them to pick it up. Right. Now, I didn't know that. I can't speak for everyone else, but I didn't know that those things had to be segregated. If you brought it to the street, I thought you just make a pile and, they come and grab it. Well, obviously we all know now that is not the case. So if you have the ability and you can move your vegetation to one pile, and you can move your contract, your C&D, your construction and debris to another pile, your food to another pile, that's and then your appliances to another pile, that will definitely speed up the process, because it's easier to just reach up, come in, grab it. They could fill the truck, move on to the next house. I can tell you my house wasn't like that. Mine was all piled together. So, I was one like everyone else. I just thought you pile it up and you go, but that's not the case. They're very diligent about what goes in that truck. Every truck has a monitor on it to make sure
they get paid pretty well too. I mean, we had the lady on who was hiring people. They work hard, but they get paid a lot of money.
So somebody was asking, is there a place where people can go see when the street they live on, the debris will be cleared?
Not yet. I think they mentioned.
Oh, Dan froze up. But what Roger mentioned last night,
the GIS dashboard for unincorporated Lee County.
Yeah, Dan, your phone.
You're freezing.
Phone is freezing up. We're gonna do it the old-fashioned way again. I'm gonna give them a call like we did. But they actually, that was a good question. Who asked the question? They get a bell for that. They are gonna put like a website up so that you can see all that. You can see where they've gone and how much they've taken away. They've got a really cool process where they want everything to be out in the public, which is great.
Yeah.
They want everybody to see everything.
Transparency.
Yeah, transparency.
Well, and they have these debris monitors. I see them even out here. They're in the car behind the truck, and they're
what that guy was doing today out front. Well,
I don't know.
You know what was weird to me?
I've seen them out there.
The
Yes, Deanna, thank you.
The guy with the claw, he lifted up the green bags from our neighbor's house. Like, I was like, what is he doing? Nobody's watching what's going on there. I didn't think they were supposed to do that unless it was a green bag truck. Yeah. I didn't think it was going to be that, but anyway.
Thank you.
I think you just
Nah.
That's not true.
Are you coming through? Is he coming through? Yeah.
Here.
Can't hear him on my headphone. Let's see if I do that. How about that?
I can hear you.
Oh, you're loud and clear there. Okay. Very low class operation here, low technical and the whole thing. So
that's mug is ugly.
No. We know your Wi-Fi sucks down there. We've tried to do a show down there. So. Yeah. So you were saying, what the hell were you saying? I've already forgotten, dear. What were we talking about?
You were asking about monitoring debris.
Right.
And at the meeting they had today, the county commissioners, they were talking about a GIS board that is for unincorporated Lee County. Incorporated cities don't have that yet, but I believe Reed last night was saying that they're working on that to be able to kind of track where, what streets have had the first pass, second pass, third pass, fourth pass, however many passes it is, but they're working on it. It's a pretty complex thing, but there is one for unincorporated Lee County that you can go to the Lee County's website and see it. I think it's Lee County Hurricane / disaster or something like that. I didn't write that all the way down yet, but they
Cool
You got
ringtone.
the music
It's got
back
the cool
there.
that's pretty cool ringtone.
yeah,
You know what? When my wife calls me on my phone, my ringtone is the theme of Psycho. I don't know if
you want so my brother Kevin back in Minnesota, when his phone rings,
Yeah.
it says warning, it's the wife, it's the wife.
It's the
Kevin.
You'd have to know my brother.
yeah.
So Dan, anything exciting from the county debris meeting today? I tried to start to listen to it and then I just kind of fell asleep. So, I mean, you can only listen to people talk about debris for so long before it's enough.
Sure. No, there were, a lot of it was, the talk about how much, and if I'll kind of give you the layout of what each municipality has for expected debris and then what has been collected. So Fort Myers Beach, as I said, has 2.5 million cubic yards of debris. Sanibel, they figure, has about 600,000. Cape Coral's right about 2 million. Bonita is about 275,000. Fort Myers is at about 600,000. Estero is at 150,000 in debris, and then unincorporated Lee County is about 3.5 million. That's what brings you up to that 9 to 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's still possibly a number that could change depending on the amount of debris that gets tossed out after the first, second, third pass, but that's kind of where we're at now. And what's been collected so far, Fort Myers Beach, and these were numbers from a couple days ago, but they did update Fort Myers Beach as the meeting went on. So I don't know if the numbers that I'm going to give you for what's been collected so far from the other municipalities are 100% accurate, but they originally said it was 202,000 of Fort Myers Beach had been collected. But then later in the meeting, they said as of today, it was 318,000.
Right.
Sanibel was at 110,000 of the 600,000. Cape Coral was about 589,000 of the 2 million. Bonita was at about 135,000 of the 275,000. Fort Myers was at 320,000 of about the 600,000. Estero was at about 80,000 of 150,000, and unincorporated Lee County was at about 1.15 million of the 3.5 million.
So we're killing it. We're killing it again. We're always number one, Fort Myers Beach, always.
Well, actually, it's completely the opposite. But again, it's your math numbers. 2.5 million and 300,000. That's a big gap.
Yeah.
And time is running out, so you can see the importance that goes back to that Monday and Tuesday, and we had one of the longer, if not the longest, search and rescue missions. So they obviously were a little bit behind to be able to start on that. They're making up time. They said today that they're up to, I think, 70 trucks or 67 trucks
on the beach alone.
Yeah, that
Wow.
they are going to be segregating into 27 different segments. So it's like 3 to 5 streets, they said last night, would be a sector, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have at least a minimum of 1 truck in that sector that doesn't leave that 3 to 5 streets, is what was told to us last night. So
keep bringing it out is what you're saying. Once you're cleaned up the first time, keep bringing it out if you can. It's all free. It's all free to you.
Anything you can get to the right of way, they will come back and pick it up, and people are upset that it's not fast enough. It's not going fast enough. There's been a lot of questions about my neighbor's house is in my front yard. How do we get it out? Well, I think the governor covered that today, that's going to be covered under the there's a lot of process to go through. In the meeting that they had again with the commissioners today, it sounded like it was it could be a 3 to 6 month period where, we're going to start to see progress with that. You got to mobilize, you got to do all that stuff. They were working on it with FEMA very hard to be able to get that approved. And it's the first time, it sounds like that.
Hold on, Dan, you're jumping ahead. He's getting into the governor stuff, which was great today. The governor came with some gifts and some good news, but I want to answer Claudia's question and probably apologize because Claudia, I originally had Matt scheduled for 6:30, so that's my fault.
Ed can't do math, Claudia.
No, I moved.
Can't tell time.
Come on,
He
stop
can't
picking
do
on
that.
me. I moved them back to 6 o'clock because I wanted to have Dan on, and I actually bumped our guest from 6 o'clock to tomorrow night. We're going to talk about mold removal tomorrow night. So
Oh, man, I'm
your
gonna-
favorite kind. Where are you going? Another hairdo. It's like it's every friggin' week with your hair. So you can rewind and listen to the show. Matt was great, but once the governor came to town, everything got thrown into the and changes were made. So the governor comes
Did
to
you have
town.
Matt on today? I missed it. I haven't gone
Yeah,
back and
Matt
listened.
Caldwell was
Matt
on.
Good.
Yeah,
He's a great guy.
Oh yeah, super nice, and he helped us. He confused us even more about the 50% rule. So no, I'm just kidding. He's great. He simplifies it. He dumbs it down for me so that anybody can understand it if I can. So the governor comes to town. He's at Times Square, which is great for the businesses down there. I saw some pictures with all the business owners. Tom from Ola was there, and Jason and Jacinta and a bunch of other folks that owned businesses down there. And he came with some gifts, Dan. He said that it looks like for the first time, FEMA might pay for your house to be demolished and taken away. So that was great because it sounded like Roger, from his experience, the town manager, didn't think that, might happen because this really never happened before. But the governor went to work on Biden, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said, and it was reaffirmed in the county commission meeting today. I think Roger Desjardins said the same thing. And in his experience, this is a first-time thing. That so you got to give kudos to the governor and his staff for working diligently to work with FEMA to get this done. So it just goes to show you, if you're willing to work together and you're willing to get your hands dirty, you can get some stuff done that's never been done. And
no kidding.
If there's one thing that came out of that press conference today, you could tell that there was a desire to be very swift, very efficient, to get this done as fast as possible, and to get the businesses back open as soon as possible.
And I think that's what we've been talking about all the time, is that this disaster, the devastation that occurred, to build back is going to take a real commitment from, local, state, and federal government like has not been seen before. So, keep getting the word out about the need that's down there, and look what happened. So, I mean, it's really great news. I spoke to someone tonight who called me last week and was not panicked, but she was, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about my house. Do I have to take it down? How am I going to get somebody to take it down? Who pays for that? My insurance, yada, yada. I called her as soon as and she said, I already heard the news and I already got on the list. So it was really a godsend for her to get that news, a real boost about the debris removal.
Yeah, and I've been trying to tell everybody all along, kind of be, if you can be patient, let the process work itself out. Let the federal and state governments work it out to see if we could achieve this, and they did. So if you're patient, it's not going to happen overnight. They're not going to come tomorrow with trucks and start tearing your house down. But if you're patient, they're going to be coming. They're going to take it down. They're going to be swift. They will help. There's obviously going to be a legal process you have to go to fill out forms and all of that. But you can go online, and you can start that process now, is what was said today. So get that process started, get in a queue, if you will. Get your paperwork into the state and federal governments that you're going to need to power of attorney kind of thing. I don't know if that's the right word. I didn't write that down. They were talking too fast. I couldn't get it all at once. And I can't read my writing, so I wouldn't.
Well, if there's one website, folks, that you need to stay close to, it's iandebriscleanup.com. iandebriscleanup.com.
There you go. That's right.
Or this phone number, 850-961-2002. 850-961-2002. That was the number that both DeSantis and Kevin Guthrie gave out. And Kevin, another hero. I mean, he's on top of things. He said today, Dan, that 300 Olympic swimming pools could have been filled with all the debris from this storm so far, which is an insane amount. Where does all that debris go, Dan?
So they put it at our sites, then it gets trucked off. If you go and watch the county commission meeting today, they had a map of where the pickup sites are, and then where the final destination sites are, where it gets ground down to even smaller stuff and then taken out to the final spot. So I couldn't tell you every specific one. But if you go watch the meeting today with the Lee County Commission, it shows you where all the debris sites are, and it's broken down to colored shapes. It's very, very simple, very easy to understand. And they also, one of the things that came out of that meeting today, by the way, that I think is very, very important, because it's been asked to me a lot of times. I believe it was Commissioner Hammond that brought it up. A lot of people have asked, and they've asked me to, if I want to clean up the debris myself, can I just take it to, Bay Oaks, or can I take it to Lover's Key and just drop it off? The answer to that is no, because it has to be monitored by FEMA regulations to be able to get reimbursed for it. The other question is, well, can I take it down myself, and will I be reimbursed if I take it to get rid of it? The answer to that again is no. The other question is, well, if I take it and get, well, it isn't even a question, but the fact that I learned tonight that I did not know is, if you do decide you have the equipment, you can take debris to the landfill yourself and get rid of it. They will only take 5 cubic yards.
Oh.
So if you show up with a 15 cubic yard trailer full of stuff, you're only going to be able to get rid of 5 cubic yards.
Didn't know
And it
that.
I didn't know that until today either. So I thought that was a very important piece of information to pass along.
Got it.
And I don't know, they didn't go into detail as to why that is, but my assumption is, there's a lot of debris in Lee County that needs to be processed, and you can only process so much so fast.
One of the other
And
things.
I believe Reed from Carter Golf referenced that last night. And you referenced it again today in the county commission meeting, that you don't want to overwhelm these sites. You can't overwhelm them with too much debris too fast, or they can't process it.
Right.
Then you've just got trucks sitting idle. So it's kind of a choreographed, if you will, sequence of things as you pick it up and you drop it off and it's processed and it's sent on. So to keep that all in unison is a very tough juggling act.
Mm-hmm. One of the other things that the governor mentioned and Kevin mentioned today, I say Kevin like we're on a first name basis. Really? At least I didn't say Ron. It was so weird at the town council meeting last night. My phone started ringing. I had it on silent, but my phone started ringing and it said Ron DeSantis across the top, right? I was like, Karen Woodson's like, oh, you got to get that. It was like, it was one of the robocalls because election day is coming up, but it was pretty cool to look at your phone and
so
see
how fast
Ron.
Did you make it outside to take that call?
That's right. Oh.
Is that why you're running outside?
No, I ran outside for that check I was telling you about that I'm going to tell everybody about tomorrow. So I was like, I did call back after just to see if he answered. It was friends of Ron DeSantis, damn it. The other thing that came up today was the housing. The state is getting involved in the housing now, and it's a 6-month program, and it starts today, folks. So if you want to get in on the housing process, I guess it's going to be a FEMA trailer that the state pays for, or it was a little unclear how it's going to happen, but you get 6 months of housing somehow if you get on the list, and you don't even need to get on the list. FEMA is going to come knocking on your door. Or no, this one is a 6-month program. FEMA will know whether or not, apparently FEMA's like, they're the all-knowing, all-seeing. They know whether or not you need a house or not. And they're going to call you and say, do you want a house or something like that? Is that right, Dan? I know I'm being a little cavalier about it.
He certainly didn't go into details. Governor DeSantis certainly didn't go into details about it, but I think you covered the gist of it, that it was a 6-month program. And what I think people forget about FEMA, and I've learned this over the last couple of weeks, is, and the administrator directly said it when I met her. She was, FEMA is there to assist. It's not there to make you whole. It's not there to give you back what you had before.
Mm-hmm.
It's there to help you get to the next stage of whatever your life is going to be. And I think that if people can remember that, it's very easy for us. And we've gone, Megan and I have gone through the FEMA process, and we get the same thing everybody else gets, or you get denied, and it's gut wrenching because you've lost everything. But you have to understand that this isn't their first go around. They do this yearly, probably a couple times a year, with disasters all over the country. And although we are just another disaster, and I hate to put it that way, but we're another disaster. The rules are put in place for a reason. This is all taxpayer money, and you have to be able to build yourself back up too. You have to take the hand that's dealt to you. You have to take the assistance, and I'm one for ask for whatever you can, get whatever you can. But there comes a point where you have to take that, and you have to take it and run with it, and build yourself up and help everybody, and eventually it'll all work out, hopefully.
Right.
but it's not there to make you whole. It's not there to, if you had a brand new car or a brand new boat or a brand new house and you didn't have insurance, they're not going to come in and buy you a brand new house, boat, or, it's there to bridge a gap, if you will, until you can spend some time to figure it out. So
Dan, I'm just going to read this from the Florida governor, the website, the FEMA Direct. This is from the news thing today. The Direct Temporary Housing Program has been approved for individuals in the county. The FEMA Direct Temporary Housing Program provides for 18 months of assistance from
different
manufactured.
programs. Yeah.
Hang on. For 18 months of manufactured housing, non-motorizer, Florida has also developed a state-led housing mission to provide trailers and recreation vehicles to impacted Floridians who may not be eligible for FEMA's Direct Temporary Housing Program.
there you go. So it sounds like it's a
Good.
if you get denied one, the
Right.
state has stepped in to do the other.
That's probably the 6-month thing that you're talking about.
Thank you very
I
much.
just wanted
Yeah,
to
For clarifying that.
It was difficult to hear sometimes at the press conference today.
Then what happened? Some lady passed out or something. What was that all about? And then the governor went
Yeah.
over and tried to help her. I thought he was going to give her mouth to mouth or something. What was that all about?
Well, it was kind of off to my right a little bit, so I didn't get to see exactly what happened. But she was a younger lady. I don't know if she just collapsed or
Dehydrated.
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, everybody's probably dehydrated, not drinking enough water. But
You
there was
drink enough
swift
water?
action.
You drink enough water today, Dan?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I never drink enough water. I yell
Terrible.
at my wife all the time for it. I don't need you to do
You're going to be the mayor of Fort Myers Beach, Dan. You better drink some damn water. All right. So the
I
last.
don't think he wants to be picked on about his water consumption right now.
That's my last chance for 2 more weeks. No, wait, we got one more thing about the governor, then we'll let him go. He mentioned that the state's going to get involved. I think we mentioned this last night, or Roger even brought it up, that the state's now going to remove the vehicles that are titled. If it's a boat or a car or a motorcycle or one of those jet skis, they're going to, if it's got a title, somehow they're going to figure out how to remove it somehow. So those folks that have been worried about the boat on your yard or the car in your canal, if it's got a title, the state's going to take over. But again, it's not going to happen tomorrow. There's got to all. It is the state. The governor said that today. She's fighting with me a lot about this stuff.
Anything. It's any registered property, waterway debris, or land debris. Essentially, anything that has a title, whether it's a car, whether it's a boat, whether it's a dinghy, a motorcycle, moped. If it's in the water, the state is working to get that out. But it's anything that's a titled vehicle or vessel.
And again, you would go to that debriscleanup.com.
Get on that site
to make a request.
But again, I think it's very, very imperative that people understand you have to be patient. Don't start sending emails and questions tomorrow. That this started. How come this boat isn't out of my pool? This is gonna take a long time. You have to be patient. You have to work with what's given to you. We've all been dealt a really crappy hand, and you have to take the good with the bad, and you have to deal with what's in front of you. If you only have access to one door in your house, at least you have access to your house, and your house is still there, right? So you got to try to pick the positive out of it, and you have to be willing to just be patient. It's been told that the help is coming now. The governor said it today. You just got to be patient and understand that it's coming and deal with what you've got. And if you have the means to make things better for yourself, then so be it. You're allowed to do that. But it all comes down to patience and the cavalry's coming, if you will, but it's going to take a little bit of time.
All right, Dan, we always thank you for the updates, and drink some water and get some rest, and we'll go back at it again tomorrow, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you guys too.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. The soon-to-be mayor of Fort Myers Beach, Councilman Dan Allers. A couple of quick things that we need to let you know about before we start the outgoing music and tell everybody about our Friday show. There is a meeting Thursday, that's tomorrow, October 27th at 7 p.m. at the Heights Elementary School. That is at 15200 Alexandria Court. I have no idea where that is. It's going to be a community meeting where you get to ask questions of all. I think the department heads are going to be there. FPL is going to be there. Crowder Golf is going to be there. And you're going to be able to get all your questions answered. And that's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at Heights Elementary. Where is that?
Well, I know where it is, but I mean, telling you, it's over.
Is it by the beach?
It's
Is it by the Publix over there?
it's where the library is, where that Lakes Library is. It's
Oh,
over-
okay.
it's around-
And it will be on the Facebook. So they have everything set up for the Facebook Live.
I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's tomorrow night at 7:00. Another thing. Very nice. A couple of things. The shirts are yellow shirts. Please don't be hoodwinked into thinking that Spammer and Scammer is selling shirts. The shirts are on pause right now because we've sold 650 shirts, and Marie's pulling her hair out and going to go insane
No,
because
she's doing well.
she's trying to
she's
mail them
getting caught
all.
up.
Yes.
She's getting caught up.
Yeah, and so we're trying to get everybody's shirts out, get them picked up, get them mailed. We still have 400 of them to pick up from the printer on Friday. Then we'll mail all those out. So we're going to get caught up. So there's a pause on the shirts right now. You can't order them. So don't buy one from a scammer. The website is fake. They're going to take your money, and you will not get a shirt in response. So that's what's the latest on the shirts. Friday night's happy hour show, which has become like the biggest hit ever on Fort Myers Beach, is going to be at Buckets. And we're going to be there during the fundraiser for the whale. So we look forward to seeing you come out to Buckets on Friday night. And one of the things we're going to do is give away $30,000 to the Community Foundation, which would put us at I'm not going to do the math right now. One something well over 100,000. I'm trying to add it up on the fly. It doesn't look like I have the right number
I
there.
wonder if Reese will be there with his spoon.
Reese, I thought he lost his spoon in the crowd. Hopefully not.
We got to get him.
Yeah,
another
he needs a
spoon.
new $48 spoon.
No.
We've also given out $30,500 in gift cards to employees of restaurants and other businesses on the beach, and we're still trying to buy them as quickly as we can buy them. We will give them out. And I also heard from the Women's Club and the Community Foundation that the portal, in which people who are residents of the beach, will be opening in the next few days once there's more money, and they want to make sure that fund has money in it before they start taking names. Now that the process is moving along, people are getting their money. That's what's cool about that. One of the biggest needs for those of you that are on the Amazon wish list is generators. We don't need creamer for coffee. Don't know why people are sending creamer for coffee or sugar for coffee.
They've got
A lot of it. Yeah.
They've got a lot.
So generators are
Feel that.
big, and shop vacs are big. So thank
We've
you
been getting.
to.
Thank you. Everybody's been sending a lot of shop vacs and
Yep.
all sorts of stuff.
I want to say thank you to Adam Botana, our state representative, because today Adam went down to the beach and he installed a Starlink, which connects you to the internet for free at the
Nice.
Fire Station 33, which is near Santini Plaza, and also at the library.
Thank you, Cindy. Dish detergent.
All right. Cindy is down there,
Yeah,
one of the
she-
volunteers, her
yeah.
and Steve.
Boots on the ground. Those
Yep,
guys have
yep.
been great. Cindy, Steve, Gary, all of them.
So if you go to, by the way, Diane, I bought her name's not Mike. I bought Kim a new microphone.
I
It
don't
will
know.
arrive tomorrow, so she will have the same microphone as I have. I don't think it's been cutting
Great.
out. It
You're
sounds fine.
spending more money.
Yeah, it was well worth it. And for those of you that donated to the coffee fund, I have to give you a
You blew
kudo.
him
Kudo.
away.
So when I'm leaving the meeting last night, I posted the video, and then I came home and I said, if you appreciate the work that we do, you can go to the website, the Beach Talk Radio News website. It says donate, and you can buy like a cup of coffee. And, thinking that there'd be a few people that wanted to support the show. Well, it was nonstop. Like one cup of coffee listed on that site is $5. And this is money that, by the way, comes to us. You show your support for it's completely separate from the total that we've raised, and we're going to have a total for that on Friday night too at Buckets. And we had, by the time the show started today, over 1,000 cups of coffee. Even I can do that math. Over 1,000 cups of coffee at $5 a cup.
Wow,
So,
you guys.
thank you so much for that.
So much.
I'm going to get a brand new golden microphone with that money. So that was
Well,
very
we're-
nice of you.
we're some
Yeah, and we're going to give some of it back too. So not to you people, but we're going to.
Just so much.
We got letters to read.
I've seen Denise and Tom Clint who sent us the yummy Cinnabon.
Now, wait a second.
buns.
Back the train up here. Folks, whenever we mention something, it doesn't mean you have to go out and buy it for us. Didn't I mention the bread that we had, the banana bread on the counter that night, and then the next day or 2 days later, all this bread, what is it? All this stuff shows up.
Second, heat it up in the microwave.
Thank you for sending that. I'm not being ungrateful, but you don't have to do that. It was very nice of you. We have so many letters included in not only the food that you send us, but in the shirts when you buy it. This is from the Britton family. You guys are the best. We know it's not a lot, but we hope that it helps. Thanks for all you're doing, and we are praying for all the residents and businesses on Fort Myers Beach. Keep it going. That's from one of our shirt buyers, Beach Talk Radio, another shirt purchaser. I would like to personally thank you for all you've done for Fort Myers Beach residents. You guys rock. I sent $100 so you can put the rest toward the donation kitty. Thank you so much. That's from Connie, and Connie is in Royal Palm Beach. Read a couple more, and then I'll go to sleep. Just wanted to thank everyone for all that you're doing for Fort Myers Beach. We love coming to be by the water at least a monthly basis, and my heart is broken for all the folks and businesses. Hope all of your support is overwhelming. Donna and Dave Holden, another shirt order. Thank you again for that shirt order. Ed and Kim, thank you for all you're doing. We're not really doing much, folks. We're just sitting here talking into a microphone, but we appreciate you saying that. For our island family, my husband and I own a condo at the south end. We're praying it is structurally sound and they replace the electrical panel soon so we can get back. And thank you very much. She says she misses it. That's Sheila Grant. She bought a shirt. And one more for the evening. There's thousands I could read. I can bore the tears off.
Not boring at all. I think it's great.
I know. It's not boring to me. I love reading these things. We should do just a whole show of dedications, requests and dedications. We've donated and donated, but when the shirts came out, we had to jump on board. Thanks, Marie, for your quick response. The world could use a ton of people like you, Ed, and Beach Talk Radio. They left your name off there. What the hell? That's so mean of you. Penny, thank you so much. All right, everybody. That's all for tonight. We appreciate you all tuning in, and we will be back tomorrow night with another update. And Friday night, we hope you all come out to Buckets and raise money for the whale staff and touch Kim's hair. See how lovely it is. Very nice. Thank you very much, all of you, and you have a great night. Say it with me, dear. Bye-bye.